Good morning, everyone. Today is May 31st, 2024, and I'm Larimer County Commissioner Jody Schacht McNally, Chair of the Legislative Committee for the Colorado Forest Health Advisory Council, and I call this meeting to order. And we're going to now call roll call to see if we have a quorum. Thank you.
Okay, great. I'm going to go down the list. Samantha Albert, Christy Belton.
Morning.
Morning, Christy. Katie McGrath Novak, Pat Dorsey, Director Matt McCombs, or designee.
Here.
Morning, James. Commissioner Jody Schacht McNally.
Present.
Mark Morgan.
Here.
Morning, Mark. Julie Stencil.
Good morning.
Good morning. Vice Chairman Selvin Whiteskunk. Commissioner Veronica Medina. And Director Dan Gibbs, or designee.
Here.
Morning, Allison. And I think I just saw that Katie joined.
Good morning.
So we do have quorum today.
Thank you so much, Courtney, and welcome, everyone. Appreciate you being here today. So we're going to flip the agenda so that our speaker can present and roll on to an important family obligation. So we don't have minutes to approve today because we're still getting those approved or processed from the last meeting. I appreciate everyone's patience as we move the schedule around. We'll be back on. We'll talk about the schedule at the end of the meeting. So we're not going to have the minutes today, but let's go ahead and move on, and let's just allow Carrie to present, and then we can do updates if that's all right with James and everyone else. And so I appreciate Carrie Rollins to be here again after our last meeting. As you all know, Carrie is, and can't forgive me if this is the wrong title of it, is you believe you're the Front Range or the regional director for the Colorado State University Extension. And forgive me, Carrie, if I didn't get that completely right. But she has sent us a spreadsheet when we talked about that concept with that legislative priority. And so we sent you that spreadsheet. And this is just a very high-level draft form trying to bring together what we had discussed, which Carrie's been discussing. And those are just draft numbers. So I don't want everyone to, think that's the number. This is just for us to have some ideas. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Carrie so we can have this discussion. And Carrie, I'll just do a general overview and then have people raise hands. We'll get, if anyone has questions, we'll go from there. Thank you for being here today.
Well, thank you for having me again. Can everybody hear me okay? Great. I appreciate that. Thank you, Jody, and thanks for having me back. I put together a high level proposal. I want to make sure I'm on the right track and meeting the needs that we talked about last time. So I kind of used the PowerPoint that I shared and put together some draft numbers. And before I went too far, I wanted to check in with you guys and get some feedback because really this would be a partnership in making sure that we're meeting your goals. So as I was drafting it, keeping in mind that we are an education institution, and that generally means we need people to teach and educate. I also want to be really careful not to over promise and under deliver. So that certainly was on my mind as I drafted it. And I'm a big efficiency person, so I wanted to be efficient as possible with existing positions and use existing ones where we can. There's nothing worse than getting some funds and then hiring some people and then not being able to continue that work when it's over. And I would find that a travesty because I personally am also a natural resource advocate in my personal and professional life. So using existing positions where we can, but to get up and running and build the capacity that we need to support those positions into the future. So adding some new positions and I qualified this in a 3-year period with about 10 counties and 5 in the Front Range and 5 in our mountain region as a start. So that was kind of the parameters, and recognizing that existing staff already have full-time jobs. So that's also a fine balance of how can you support them and redirect them to continue some of this work. So and then to keep it as cost efficient as possible, we don't always need to hire more experts. We have a lot of experts already. So in the proposal, a lot of the new hires are what I call program coordinator staff. They're there to be additional arms and mouths of our existing experts. So not hiring at the highest level, trying to bring it in at a lower level cost of staff to support the work of and the expertise that the higher level staff that we already have brings to the table. So that was another thing. And then I did talk about kind of that with the aim of being able to integrate the project into our work to continue it when it's over, and the sustainability of that at the end of the day were all things that I was thinking about as I drafted this. So thank you for letting me have that little bit of an overview. I guess the first question I want to check in with you all is I had at the top of the page put like a primary goal of wording, and I want to see how that sits with you. And it's if I don't have the goal correct, then it's going to be hard to align the work behind it. So catalyzing and growing existing youth engagement and career opportunities in the areas of forestry, wildfire, and natural resources in targeted Colorado regions. Is that, anybody have thoughts about that? Do I need to refine or reword, or is it generally kind of what we talked about last time as an overarching direction of what we're trying to accomplish?
Let me go to Allison and Courtney first. What are your thoughts on that? And James.
Yeah, I haven't had a significant time to dive into this, but I did get to look over this before our meeting, and you know, I do think that does represent what we are trying to move forward with. So I really did appreciate taking this and really putting it to the next level. James and Courtney, what do you think?
I like the goal as written. I think it's really clear.
I'm looking at it, and unfortunately, I think the last time, Carrie, you presented, it was right at the end of legislative session. So I gave the legislative update, and I think I popped off. And so much like Allison, I looked at this early this morning, trying to kind of reorient myself into what this discussion was, and I'm slowly kind of remembering. But based on like the language that Courtney posted and that you have kind of created, I think that is all encompassing of that goal, of that primary kind of like legislative thing that we're trying to achieve. And so, yeah, I think I don't have any hesitations, and I think, you know, it's up to this body to formalize it, but I have no hesitations with it.
Great. Thank you, James. And I believe, and I was trying to remember this this morning. Thank you, Kate. I appreciate that. The targeted regions, that's where I was just mentioning. So with the Front Range region, we have the Front Range Mountain backdrop. So obviously, you know, Weld County would not be included in that. They don't have a lot of forest. So we're looking at 5 counties in the Front Range along the, excuse me, along the foothills, and then 5 counties in the mountain region. Probably yet to be determined, though I have an idea. For example, maybe Clear Creek and Gilpin should be included, but I think that will be a conversation as we go on. I'm not trying to have all the answers today. I generally want this to be a dialogue and make sure we're getting it right, because that's what's most important to me. And if it's helpful and somebody maybe help me remember, I think I sent my slides from last time. I have them printed here as a guide, but if I need to, I can send them again for maybe people who might have missed the last session.
Carrie, Mr. Morgan has his hand raised, and I think I think I know what he might say, but go ahead, Mr. Morgan.
No, I was wanting to hear what she was saying, but I think the big thing for me in this and the goal at the end of here, if I'm reading the right bullet here, is increased partnerships with local school districts for 6th through 12th grade. And I think I understand that, you know, you're based in a college institution here, but the basis, it is a land grant institution, so extension is the thrust of your position and a huge important part of that college. So I think I would just like to see the focus as early and as young as possible on the 6th through 12th grade part. We're working on developing a lot of conduits or pipelines for internships and stuff through the junior college level and through the four-year degree. But the vast majority of people that are going to be involved in this, a whole lot of them will never see a college.
Yeah.
So it's important from the extension side of things that we serve that 6th through 12th grade group and to bring them on and help them. And so I guess I'm looking for a big focus there. And
Yeah.
that.
Well, and I could throw out, so thank you for jumping down. I'm ready to move. That's in section A, Mr. Timber, and I'm happy to address that. And I appreciate your comment because I didn't know how much emphasis. I do agree, the younger, the better. So, I mean, one thing we could do, and I don't think this would add any cost, would be to add, for those of you familiar with 4-H, we have Clover Buds. Those are our youngest members. They're 5 to 8 years old. And oftentimes what we have done, well, we have Clover Bud activities, and we could take some of the activities that we might bring nationally to Colorado 4-H and make sure that we're having some Clover Bud activities that would be around natural resources. The other thing that we could do there, and we have already done, and me personally have done, is partner with our conservation districts. Oftentimes they're doing school programs, and we did a big pollinator one and continue to do a big pollinator one in Larimer County. So I would think that they would also, with their mission, be of interest to continue some of those one day out of school field days, if you will, where they bring them out to the fairgrounds and we do rounds of education with those younger kids. So I've made note of that, and I'd be happy to include that in here. So if we're good with the overall goal of catalyzing and growing existing youth engagement and career opportunities in the area of forestry, wildfire, and natural resources in targeted Colorado regions, Section A is kind of gets the project up and running. It will be the biggest lift in the first year, as you can imagine. It includes things like identifying the most appropriate 4-H curricula out there that's national, that's already written, that we can bring in easily to Colorado in the areas of interest that we're looking to make impact, and make any adaptations as necessary to deliver in the schools. And that could be, as I talked about last time, implementing a new model called SPIN clubs, which is special interest clubs. So creating some natural resource clubs, and or integrating just some programming in programs like our Juntos program, which does target underserved audiences and the Latinx community, which also aims to increase graduation rates, but perhaps doing some integrated nights of natural resource content there.
Carrie, can I pause you just for a moment? Christy,
Yep.
I know you can't probably see the screen, but Christy has her hand raised. Christy?
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. And this may be a little bit of a premature question, but I wanted to ask you this while we're on Section A under the measurables
Yes.
tab. Item number 3, close graduation rate gap of Latin and minority populations, college enrollment in the field of natural resources. What does that mean there, and what would we be trying to measure?
That is a great question. It's a worthy goal, and that is actually one of my questions for you. I've been in natural resources my whole career, and trying to get people of color and minority populations integrated into the field of natural resources has been tough. It's been a goal for a long time. And so trying to close that gap and get people into that field by my the methodology I'm thinking there is through CSU, we have some partnerships with the historically Black universities and colleges, as well as the Hispanic university and colleges. And so perhaps partnering with some of them on bringing in some internship or graduate students to do work in natural resources and forestry in particular here in Colorado would be the method. How we measure that, there are lots of data out there about graduation rates, and we certainly do collect race, ethnicity, gender information.
I'm sorry, Carrie, do you mind if I interrupt you? I wasn't clear enough. Are we talking high school or college graduation?
Exactly.
That is a good question. I was focusing on college
Okay.
and getting people into the
Put that
career
in
and the
there.
workforce. Yeah, and I guess I could make that more clear. So
So
thank you.
And so just my 2 cents on that, this seems like a very broad, it seems very broad to me, but it also seems like, how would we measure that? I want to be careful about putting something in here that just makes it, that would be difficult for all of us to even accomplish. This in our purview, in other words, is what I'm asking. For college graduation, are we going to, as a group, get involved in, getting behind college graduation rates of a particular group, of any group?
Great question.
So, I'm thinking, this is just a rough draft.
Okay.
And we're focusing on these outcomes. On the goal, right? We're trying to increase participation and folks getting exposed to these careers earlier, whether they come out of high school with a degree certification or they move on to some of those more advanced degrees that we've talked about that are needed, like forestry and adaptive silviculture. I think this has to be broad to kind of bring all the pathways into play. And I think the reason that and I'm not saying it has to be this way, but I know when we present this to the Wildfire Committee as a goal, it'd be nice to have something for them to work from, to understand kind of what we were thinking of. And so this is a decision for us to bring back to the full Forest Health Council. And so just trying to mesh it here, but what it looks like, because if we just gave the goal of, hey, we want to expand 4-H and do these careers and just hand it up with just a paragraph, the legislators are probably going to have a lot of stakeholdering, and it would be nice to have at least something to kind of help guide what our intention was for this this priority as we define and talk about as a committee and then as a full Forest Health Council. So these are, like I said, these are just a draft proposal to put something on paper for us to react to. And if we need to make some more emphasis that, we need to make sure there's emphasis on career pathways, whether they go in right in from the field from high school and getting certificates, or if it's a pathway to move on through more advanced degrees. I think all of the above. I think we need all of the above. So I'm going to I hope that answers what I think. And correct me if I'm wrong. I don't mean to speak for the group, but I think that's kind of what we're trying to do. And then I think Mr. Morgan had a question real quick, and then Katie had said in the comments, could we instead focus on including counties and elementaries with higher levels of racial diversity? We could suggest that certainly. But also I think we need to make sure the counties and elementary schools have that relationship and that infrastructure already there, because this is kind of I think we need a proof of concept if we start putting this out, making sure that it's successful so we can span that in the long run. But go ahead, Mr. Morgan.
Just a quick couple of comments. One is I think it's real pivotal what Christy mentioned here about whether we're talking college or high school graduation here, because in high school, the Hispanic community has expanded greatly in the timber harvesting side of things and in forestry, and you have a great many new successful Hispanic contractors, they've taken to it, they like it, and you've got, and so, and they're very much, I'm kind of representing them and trying to recruit for like the 4-H programs and everything. But I think if you went out and looked at the industry right now, you would see a very successful program to reach out to that community, and they've adopted it on their own. And I think there's more of a success story there than there is a challenge. I think you just need to encourage it. It's the difference. It's not a college thing, but it's very much a high school thing.
Okay.
There are a lot of 2 and 3 generation Hispanic logging operations out there right now, and they're very successful, proud family groups. And I think it's overlooked by a lot of people.
Thank you. I really appreciate this feedback. It's going to help us make this a better proposal. And I'm hearing overwhelmingly, I feel like, and I like the comments. And if somebody, I don't know if I can copy those, but I would like to copy them and save them before I go. But keeping the focus on high school is fine. I was thinking of the continuum of there's the in the field labor force, and then there's the professional force that might want to go through and get a higher degree. But if the focus really is about high school graduation, we can certainly make that adjustment. Thank you.
So let's
Okay.
go back, let's go back to let's go back a step and focus on kind of, what we thought of as this priority, and go through the rest of your proposal about what this looks like, if it matches kind of what our intent was. So thank you, Carrie.
Yeah. So I was gonna, let me see if there was anything more on A. Pulling, so part of A would include like, well, we kind of touched on it already, but the baseline data that we would need to measure the impacts. So there's some of that that would take place in that section, and then developing ways to improve and increase the pipeline from the youth to high schools to college. And so we could, and workforce opportunities and making those connections. So I think that is section A. If there's any other questions there before I move on to B.
And just for everyone, Carrie's got about maybe 5, 6, 7 more minutes, and then she's got to run. And this is not the final discussion for us. We just want to, so this is our chance to have her present and ask her questions. Thanks.
All right. Doing good so far. Okay, so then scrolling down to B, this section really just aims to provide funds to support increased internships in both high school and college youth, and give them workforce experience and exposure to the career opportunities that we've been talking about, and then providing incentives for certificate or degree programs. So for example, in my presentation last time, I excuse me, mentioned in, we have just rolled out this year in 4-H. It's been a long time in coming, so I'm really excited about it, is the opportunity for 4-H members who have been in a particular program, so let's say livestock, for a long time. They can apply for college credit while still in high school, and get 3 credits of college credit at a 6 times the discounted rate of what somebody who is an accepted student at CSU might get. And so branching that out from the College of Ag to the Warner College of Natural Resources, and providing some incentives for those students who are interested in pursuing higher ed to take some of those courses. So, so section B is really all about the internships, the scholarships, and then I talked about last time, we've heard loud and clear that the cost of living is a big concern for young people in our counties, especially the Front Range and the mountain communities. And so making sure that we're providing funds for those. So this is more of a direct fund kind of section. So any questions on this one or comments? And while you're, oh, go ahead.
I don't want to monopolize this discussion, but I think some of those are excellent. And I think, again, obviously I'm beating the drum here, but the high school program I think is critical. And I think that's great. And the credits, all other kinds of things are out there through the college programs. They can earn college credit in high school, and it's high time they can do that in this profession. And I think that's a great suggestion. I think that's really positive. So if they can see some reward for doing that and being involved in it and getting those credits, because it's almost in any other discipline they can do that. It's huge for here, and I'm glad you were successful with that. And once again, focusing on the high school, I think is great. Thank you.
I appreciate that, and I totally agree. I'm super excited about this part. Anybody who's been in 4-H, those kids work hard. They learn a lot, and to not get some college credit for that, or at least have the opportunity, was a travesty. So I've been beating that drum for a while, and in May of this year was the first class that went through. I haven't even heard, it's brand new. I haven't even heard how many, well, they're probably not done yet, actually.
You get the gold star for that one.
No, well, it's not just me. It's a team of people as well, but I'm one beating the drum. I'm a member of the band, put it that way. Okay, and then section C is just the lubrication that makes the project go on. That's a portion of my time. I feel passionate about this program. I've been talking to you all about it, so I'd want to see it through to the end and make sure that it is what we say it is going to be. It includes, and again, this is just portions of time. I'm not trying to tag on anybody's full salary to this, but a very small portion of mine, a very small portion of an existing evaluation person, and then all the other people that make things happen. I didn't include, but they're part of the team, like our comms team, and all of those kinds of things. So the budget people, all of that. So that's the lubrication that makes a good project work. So that's what that section is.
Great.
I love that.
Go
I
ahead.
love that choice of words, because around here we call it the green grease that actually makes the project work.
Right. Yeah, you can put people in the field, but they may not do what you want them to unless you have somebody kind of providing the bumpers.
Well, Carrie, thank you for all the work you've done on this. I really appreciate it. Just before Carrie has to roll, I just wanted to ask, is there any other burning questions, just to honor Carrie's time? So because she's got a long drive to Denver to the hospital. So anyone have any burning questions? Because, this is, like I said, we're going to continue on this, but at least this is something to work from. And I appreciate you kind of helping us bring our discussion kind of onto something we can look at. Does anyone feel that this doesn't quite capture kind of that concept of the kind of expanding and reaching out to getting more youth interested in this area of career pathway? Anyone feel like there's something that's not aligned with kind of our legislative priority, or any concerns about any of this? Okay.
Other than the ones that I stated, I think it sounds great.
Okay. And Commissioner Medina, thank you for being here. We can keep this document going and the conversation going, because we have some more conversations to have as we work towards finalizing this before we put it out to the interim committee or to the full force health council first. So, okay. Well, Carrie, thank you for your time today.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you flipping the schedule for me, Jody, and thank you all for reading this. I know it was short notice, but that was really valuable feedback for me. So we'll keep doing iterations till we get it right.
Great. Well, have a great weekend, safe travels, and we'll see you next time.
All right.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye. Okay. So let's get through the other updates and then we can come back to this. I know you guys just had a chance to read through this. So I'd like to maybe let you all read through it and after the discussion, and then maybe provide some feedback to Courtney and Allison and James. I know we kind of just had a chance to kind of read out this and look at it. Carrie had been out of town, so I had just gotten it earlier this week. So I appreciate everyone's patience as we kind of looked at it. And it doesn't say that has to be what we present to the Full Force Health Council. It's just something to work from. But I want to make sure it's aligned with what we thought the approved legislative priorities. So we can add some more feedback. But let's go ahead, and I appreciate Carrie to be here today. It'd be great to, I think it's a good thing she talked about starting off with 5 on either other side of the continental divide, because it would be hard to really expand this fully across the thing, but maybe build it up and implement it as we go along. So just thought about that too. So James, we'll move on to the next agenda item, which I think is kind of updates for us. And I think some things were signed into law recently for, I couldn't drive the 3.5 hours to get there, but, and the 3.5 hours to get back, but would you mind giving an update? Thanks.
Absolutely. So as a reminder, just for this group, we were watching several bills. Unfortunately, towards the end of session, as things start to move quickly and as the legislature quickly runs out of money in their purse to spend, only 2 of our priorities actually made it all the way across the finish line. The first bill was Senate Bill, only 2 House bills made it across the finish line. It was House Bill 1006, which was that Rural Grant Navigators bill. As a reminder, that was the bill that if it was passed, your legislative recommendation would be pulled off. That did have some slight changes there at the very, very end. Initially, it started as a $200,000 program with the ability to have continuous appropriations. That doesn't mean that there's guaranteed money in there, but it keeps the, let's say, bank account open, that if the legislature finds money, they could keep putting it in there and we could keep providing those services. At the very end, I think it was the second to last day of session, one of the JBC members wanted to kind of curtail some of that continuous spending. So they came to a compromise amendment where instead of a $200,000 program, it would be a $300,000 program with 3 years of spending authority. So that gives us, the State Forest Service, quite a bit of flexibility to how we spend that. It can be $100,000 over the next 3 years. It could be one big project of $200,000 and then a smaller one, but it does give us some of that that flexibility to move forward. So it is a $300,000 program with a 3-year spending authority. And so we're happy to kind of start moving that process along to get that program up and moving. That bill was signed in late May, actually. It was signed in late May over in Representative Velasco's House district. The governor made it. I believe we had some foresters from the State Forest Service. We had several people from the DNR make it. It was a really good ceremony. And then the other bill that made it was another one that moved forward from the Wildfire Committee. And it's one that I think stemmed from this council a couple years ago, but it was extended funding for the Live Wildfire Ready campaign. This was that outreach and education campaign designed to really pump up wildfire education for homeowners and home hardening. That one did see a reduced fiscal. We still got $40,000 approved. And that one was signed at the same time. Some side notes for that. The Live Wildfire Ready campaign, House Bill 1024, had what the legislature calls a safety clause. So that went into law immediately upon the governor's signature. So that one is current law. The second one, House Bill 1006, has what is called a petition clause. That just means that the governor says, I intend to make this the law of the land. But in Colorado, we have this opportunity to, if enough signatures are gathered, we can actually rescind that from becoming a law. And so that will go up, that will become effective law on August 7th. That's when that period ends. And so Those are the two legislative updates. As a kind of reminder, Senate Bill 9, which was a priority from this committee, it was the slash removal program. Some politics, I think, were behind this one. There was enough money to fund it, but unfortunately, the Appropriations Committee in the House did not pull that bill up. And since that bill never made it through the Appropriations Committee, it died on the calendar. And then the other one that never got pulled up for an Appropriations Committee was Senate Bill 9, which was the biochar study. That one we did know probably wasn't going to move forward. There just wasn't enough funding in this year's budget to study such a large, I guess, research project. And so we kind of knew that one wasn't moving forward. But the Senate Bill 9 one was a bit of a surprise. Mr. Morgan.
Yeah,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Morgan.
I was, you have to do an after action report. How did we fail on 9? What did or didn't get done? How, you know, when things don't go the way you want, you gotta adopt, and, you know, that's something that is not a huge priority to me, but it's a huge priority to a lot of people in this group, and I think it's important. And as far as from a team player standpoint, you know, we got to bring this all along together. How'd we drop the ball? Where'd we fumble at? Why didn't we get it across the finish line? What do we need to do? You assess these all the time. This is your job. This is what you look at. What do we do?
In my opinion, I don't think it was anything this committee did. I think it made it through its first chamber in the Senate. And to me, that signifies that through the prioritization process by which the legislature allocates the money was there. There were several people, I think, myself included. Daphne was lightly pushing from the DNR, as well as the Senate sponsors were pushing on the chair of the House Appropriations Committee to get it going. And I think there was just, it came down to what I don't want to speak out of hand here, but from the conversations that I heard from the two Senate sponsors, there was just not a willingness to move forward because of time restraints. The words that I heard was, yes, we have the money, but I don't want to pull it forward because, and I think part of it was there were other priorities, and I will use that word more, moving through the legislature at the very end, dealing with property tax, dealing with Tabor, and dealing with these other bigger concepts that the Appropriations Committee chair said, I know I need to focus the time and energy of this committee to get these bigger things through, that some of these other bills that while the funding is there and while the support's there, we just can't move because of a time efficiency manner. So I just want to reiterate to this group that I think this group did everything they needed to do in order to get it done. The commissioner testified on that bill in the House committee. I was there. It passed with bipartisan support. I think this was just a time management calendar issue, as well as a big governor legislative priorities moving at the very end, that there was just not enough time this time.
So if I might, James, so this was also a priority bill for counties and commissioners and counties acting together and Colorado Counties Incorporated. And so I was being pulled from other directions as well to talk and try to push. And they were, at the end, we just couldn't, it was the chair of the Appropriations Committee in the House just basically said this wasn't a priority. There was other priorities, and I'm not, that's not a judgment call. That was exactly the word. Sorry, I thought there was a tick. And so it's tick season at my house. So it was frustrating because, you know, we did think this was something important, and but it was, we really tried, but I think James kind of said it correctly. There was a lot on the calendar. They had 2 weeks out, they had 350 bills still to get through the process. And then, we got it through appropriations. It was well received in that last hearing and made it into the Appropriations Committee. And I used all the levers I had to get folks to talk to the chair and to get it, but that's where it stopped. So
So it it wasn't the concept and it wasn't, so it was a matter of timing. We weren't a big enough burr under the right saddle blanket to get this done because, you know, concept was good. Everybody's in favor of it. We didn't get it done. We didn't get it over the finish line. We didn't take the right name or kick the right butt here. So I guess, you know, if you're going to take another run at this, how do we succeed the next time? And that's kind of what I'm looking for. I think, I don't know enough as a PR person or an advertiser or whatever, but I think to me, the value of this is not so much how much trash we're going to treat as we're going to be we're going to treat as it's going to be a way to focus people's attention on positive programs going forward. And there, it could have a great deal of value. And so I guess, put it to you this way, let's start early, let's plan early, and let's figure out how we get it done the next time. And let's go through there on cruise control, not for a last minute push. So that's my suggestion here.
Well, we started early, and this was our priority bill through the interim committee, and it passed out really quick and ended up in appropriations with the Senate side and waited for the joint budget committee. And we have no control over that. And so then at the end, you know, we chased it as fast as we could. And I think James and everyone, you know, was right in there. But I'm saying this as an individual person, separate from this committee. I think I think you're right, Mr. Morgan, about educating legislators from urban centers who maybe need, when there's no smoke in the air and no fire response, it is hard to see why this is an urgent thing to address this. And so watersheds and air quality and things impact everyone downstream. And I feel that this is something that we need to go back to our districts and have folks talk to folks who live, and I'm not saying everyone, but I think that there's a lot of folks who can benefit from all of us working together and showing the value and the importance of all this work and trying to understand what they might see as a value of this work and why it's important that our Forest Health Council and the work in this area is impacts everyone in Colorado. And so that's again, that's just me speaking out here individually, but I think it's a great opportunity for us to know that we have some more education and opportunities to, and I don't know that, I'd say that's a value that me as an individual commissioner and an individual, every time I have an opportunity to talk to some of those legislators in the off season, I'll be having that conversation. So.
And if I may, Commissioner, just as a quick kind of timeline on the bill, just so you understand kind of like where and what had happened. So opening day of session was January 10th, and that bill, since it was the bills get introduced in order. So this was the 9th bill introduced on that opening day. It was through its first committee of reference on January 25th. It unfortunately sat in the Appropriations Committee in that first chamber until April 30th, and that was because of the budget cycle. I want to remind this group that during the last forecast, both the Legislative Council and the JBC analysts and OSPB anticipate an even tighter budget next year. And so it wasn't a matter of timing, it was a matter of dollars, I think, spent. And I think the commissioner in her own capacity as an individual hit it on the nose too. I think Director McCombs talks very candidly in the sense that Colorado has had a really mild wildfire season in the past couple of years. And so some of these issues have taken a back burner. You know, it does unfortunately take a Cameron Peak or one of those big fires to be like, oh, we need to reintegrate this or to kind of re-educate. And so I think that was one of those things is like, we've had fairly mild season. We had a wet spring. And so it is, I think, a matter of re-educating and just making sure that they understand that this is an ongoing process, even if there's no smoke in the air and no fire kind of in the news.
Mr. Morgan and then Allison.
In the past, going back many years, we've had and sponsored legislative tours. I think it might be appropriate to make the offer to get a bunch of legislators this summer standing on top of White Pine Mountain in the middle of the Cameron Peak fire and have this discussion, because then, you know, it's one thing to sit down there at the Capitol building. It's another one to stand there and have a 360-degree view of essentially short-term total devastation for as far as you can see in any direction. And I think maybe we've successfully used legislative tours in the past, identify the key people, your House Budget Committee chairman, whoever this thing started to hit the stops, I'll buy the lunch, I'll cater the lunch, maybe we can get some transportation. Oh, I'm serious. Let's haul them up there and let's make them look, and let's get this up close and personal and say, you know, this is what we're talking about and this is why we're talking about it. That's just a suggestion.
And I was just up there planting about 700 trees a couple of weeks ago, and it's also interesting to see the trees that I planted last year, just how long it takes for them to grow. I think that's also a good visual. So Allison, go ahead. Thank you.
Just a quick reflection based off of James' reflection. I'm really happy and wish that the Live Wildfire Ready campaign was able to receive more funding, but I'm grateful that it did receive some continued funding. I feel like a statewide campaign, I know, and from the other Western states that I've had the pleasure of living and working in that have continuous wildfire, that messaging and that statewide interagency approach is going to help build that idea that there aren't wildfire seasons, but that wildfire is just something we live with here. I think we are close, and I hope we are getting closer. And in the next couple of years, that priorities such as the slash bill will not be looked at as not important, because we did have a wet year, a mild year. And so, I just hope to continue to support, and we can continue to support the Live Wildfire Ready campaign. And that will help get people's minds in that place of it's always here. It's just part of our lives. So thanks for your hard work on all of that and allowing me a brief reflection.
Thank you, Allison. I think that's a really good point. I mean, we have to celebrate what wins there are, and getting that funding continuously and having that flexibility is really important. And I always say it's great we're having green years. It's great for the moisture we need, but it also makes more fuel for things. So I think there's as Mr. Morgan knows, there's a lot of areas that are growing some fuel that maybe isn't a great thing to grow. So this is a great discussion. And again, I hope you all didn't mind that I made that comment. I'm making it as an individual commissioner, and I'm not trying to be reflective, but I do think, Mr. Morgan, that's a great idea. We can bring it to the full Forest South Council. And I don't know how that looks or what that looks like, but we did have them, the interim committee and some other legislators up here for a tour in Larimer County in 2021. I think it was 2021, right? There was quite a big group that came up, and it's an all-day thing. So just, that's another thing, is convincing someone to give up a lot of their time. So anyway, we're edging on the time. Anyone else have any comments on that? I want to thank James and Courtney and Allison and Daphne. The end of that session was, as usual, rocking and rolling, and lots of things happening. And I know Julie's aware of that as well. And our staffer that we had to bring on to just trying to keep at least holding on to the roller coaster. But I think as I heard some rumblings, there might be some new faces on the interim committee. potentially. And if that, one of those, if that's successful, would be a very strong ally. So just wanted to kind of give another positive note. So that would be a great thing to have. So any other comments? If not, then I wanted to get on to the next agenda item. And James, thanks for, you were there in person, and unfortunately I couldn't wait all day to wait down to testify, so I did it remotely, but I appreciate all the work you did. So there's our updates. So I wanted to look back and kind of have this discussion, because we have that timeline that we had to kind of work from. And I was talking with Allison and Courtney that maybe we need to move this back even a little bit more just for the budget season. I hope you all felt that timeline and kind of working our way backwards was helpful to kind of keep us on track. And we have that to present, but maybe just for budget, for the governor's budget and for planning, you know, because people are still like, wow, you have your 2025 priorities. I'm like, yeah, we need to do that. So if we might even need to bump it back just a little bit more to kind of signal what, you know, especially this project, as you saw that price tag, it's not a small price tag. So Courtney, do you want to share that a little bit? And just and also I wanted to talk about what our next steps for what our priorities and if we bring this to this concept to kind of attach to that priority. So if we do.
Yes. So we're always juggling so many sessions at once. I feel like the 2024 session we're doing wrap up. We've just sort of clarified our 2025 legislative recommendations, but we're also now starting to think about the 2026 legislative session, just to make sure that we're moving through all the right processes in terms of making recommendations to the governor, the Wildfire Matters Review Committee, and to the departments. And so I've made another calendar, this one that includes both the 2025 legislative session and the 2026 one. So I'm going to share the link, but I'm also going to share my screen. So whichever you prefer to look at, you are welcome to. You should all have access. So what we realized this year is that we shared our recommendations with the departments a little bit late. They would have preferred having our recommendations maybe a few weeks earlier. So I want to scroll to spring of next year and work backwards. So we actually heard that it would be nice if recommendations were sent to the departments on May 1st. And so I'm thinking we need to bump the legislative process up a few months. And so I'm going to work back in time. So from May 1st, 2025, we think that, okay, so if recommendations are due to departments May 1st, it would be beneficial that if in April there was a Forest Health Council meeting where the recommendations could be approved. So we just had that in April of 2024, a wonderful Forest Health Council meeting where the recommendations were approved. But if we could have it a few weeks earlier, I think that would be beneficial, perhaps in early April or, oh, sorry, team. I'm actually thinking it should be at the end of February so that they can be shared with departments in March. So I think what it is like the departments, they need to incorporate the recommendations into their own budget requests, which means we should have our recommendations to the departments in March of 2025. So instead of having the meeting where recommendations are approved in April, it would be great if they could be approved in February. So we are moving up a couple months. By this timeline in this calendar, the recommendations are sent to the council that first week in February, which means that deliberation happens in January. And we have the presentations and these conversations about priorities in the winter and in the fall of 2024. So Allison and I hypothesized that perhaps the committee, I think this year we had 8 presentations. So here I put 8 presentations on the calendar. They span December, November, October, September, and they start in August of 2024. So I think one of my questions is, does this committee still does it like the idea of having eight presentations on topics that are interesting and then having 2 meetings of deliberation? Is that the process that you all like? That's what we've done the last 2 years. Is that what seems to be working? Do you guys want less presentations and more deliberation? Do you want to have the presentations spread out more and have some meetings in the middle where there's just conversations? I think that's one thing to discuss. And this is also a draft calendar. Right now, we don't have the presentation starting until August. So we have some time to continue to massage this and improve it.
Mr. Morgan?
I just fine tune it a little bit. I would like to have maybe one less presentation and one more opportunity to chew things over with people and make sure we get it right. So I'd be a 6 or 7 presentation kind of guy and 3 or 4 deliberative meetings, but that's just my suggestion. I could go along with what anybody wants, but
I was thinking that same way. Let's go with Katie, then Christy, then Julie, and we have 3 minutes left. So quickly, I know we're supposed to end at 9:30, but I think just to give us 5 more minutes to kind of wrap this up. Can I have a motion to approve for us to go let's just make it 10. I think we won't need 10, but I can have a motion for us to go beyond the 9:30, please.
So
Right.
moved.
Do I have a second? Okay,
Second.
Julie, all those in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed? Okay, thank you all. Okay, so we had Katie, Christy, and then Julie.
Awesome. Thank you. So my thought process was, I remember each year we've done a survey of the full council's priorities and we have kind of a top 3 or so. I wonder if we could do like maybe one meeting at the beginning where we really dive into what those are and then really focus our presentations into coming up with like a couple of really super well developed recommendations. I just feel like last year it felt like a lot of information, and a lot of it I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not sure what to do with this. And then we had a lot of recommendations. So I might just recommend like maybe we focus in on 1 or 2 of the full council's priorities and just really nail those 1 or 2 this year. That's my thoughts.
So that's a great feedback. And since we don't know what the priorities are going to be, we have, we might end up falling in love with more, but I think it's something to think about. I do think targeted is important. So now, Julie.
Sorry, I was just typing that, like Christy, I agree with Mark, and I really like how Katie super honed that in. I think that, excuse me, I think that would be fantastic. As Katie said, felt like last time there was a whole lot coming at me. And so I agree with what the team is saying. I think we're on the right track.
Cool. So, and I want to remind everyone, as last year, we finally felt everything was coming at us because we were wrapping up. This is the first time we had kind of overlapping kind of priorities, kind of bringing the old priorities and new priorities. And we had a lot of recommendations. Last year we presented, and they were big because we were just trying to get that workforce capacity. So I think also my suggestion would be when we get those priorities, we have those first 2 meetings. It might be nice to have staff bring some recommendations on what would be like once we get the priorities, have staff bring what they see as best exemplars for kind of some of those priorities to kind of have us. So we're not, because last year we were just trying to talk for folks to find kind of, well, what does this look like? Who has information on this? And I think if we were very targeted and very careful about what we were looking at, I think that is important, as you all have said. But maybe that after those priorities and we have staff present some thoughts on that, that might help us kind of narrow down kind of the focus. So does that sound like a good thing too? Okay. So I don't think we have to really vote on this calendar day, but it sounds like the general consensus, Courtney, is for us to go back even a couple more months. And it sounds like we all think we went through 3 sessions this time again. And if you remember the other one the year before, it was like 2.5. So I feel like having those conversations at the end, but maybe we can have one meeting in the middle just to kind of, like we have been doing, get all of those ideas on paper as we're going along. And maybe we should do that at the end of every meeting, just kind of after the presentation, take any main concepts or questions or wonderings and put them on a document right after that meeting. And then we have that document to work for, so then you don't have to kind of go back and reflect and look through your notes. We can kind of capture them after every meeting and get them on a working document of what, questions, concerns, challenges, wonderings, and then we can have that already on a document that staff don't have to recreate or try to go back and think about, that we have to go back and try to remember all the information that we had. So does that sound like a good idea as well?
I think these all sound like incredible ideas. I love the idea of being, a little more focused and precise, and coming up with recommendations or ideas along the way, as opposed to waiting until the end. So I'm going to adjust this calendar a little bit. I have included that at the July 2024 meeting, so that's just in a couple months, the committee can ask the council for its legislative interests, so that come August and September, we can start hearing presentations that most align with the council's priorities for legislation. So I'm going to adjust this and take the number of presentations down from 8, maybe to 6 or 7, and that can still be flexible. Okay, yeah, 6 sounds good. And
Go ahead, Courtney, finish up.
just build in more deliberation.
That would be great. Julie, I see your hands raised.
Yeah, question on what you just said, Courtney. So do you envision, when we ask the council for their legislative interests, would we ask them even earlier, like in June, to think about that and come to the meeting ready to have maybe can that be on the agenda to discuss?
I think that's a great idea. Yes. I will include that in the pre-meeting materials, just sort of teeing up that we'll have this discussion, and I can have some language to run by the committee before that goes out, so that we can really refine like what we're asking people to do. Do we want to give them a list? Do we want to look through the statutory duties? Do we want to have it really open-ended? So that can be something that we talk about maybe at the next meeting too. And I can have something for this committee to
Great.
think on.
So, let's continue this whole meeting. And as you saw, the agenda looked very similar this time as it did last time. So how about we need to get back on track to our regular schedule. So that would mean that we would need to have a meeting next week. Is that correct, Courtney? That would be our normal meeting time.
One moment. I actually don't know if we are off. We're actually not off schedule. So we still just have a meeting every other.
Okay. So the 14th.
So, yeah, our next meeting is June 14th.
Okay. So I wasn't sure because we had flipped this. So it would be great to talk about kind of getting prepared for asking our questions and getting those priorities ready so we can hit the ground running in August and get the council ready for us to already say, hey, we're talking about 2026. That's going to be interesting to watch their eyes open up on that one. And then I want you to kind of look at that proposal and also look at the priorities that we approved and see if we want to add any other details to the other ones, so that when we come to the full council feedback, what are we going to say about adding these onto, kind of adding more substance or details to the recommendations, other approved recommendations, because we'll need to have the first, we all need to talk about that. And if that goes forward, we need to have the full council have vote on that as well, because those will have to come up in August to be presented. Isn't that correct, Courtney? That's when the interim committee meets in August.
Yes.
So we need to fine tune those. So those would be the two priority areas, or two definitely big agenda items. And so I'm hoping you all can be there, and then if you have some notes or comments beforehand, just either hold them for that meeting or send them to Courtney, so maybe we are ready for any questions above and beyond, so that maybe if there's some research or something to do, staff can look at that. So any other burning questions or ideas? Or and then I guess the other thing is Mr. Morgan's thoughts. We would have to take that to the full council. A kind of a recommendation of us. Do we want to talk about that recommendation? I don't know who would pay for that, or all those things, but I don't know if we want to continue that conversation as well. So that's just something, another item we might want to bring. Mr. James.
Yeah, talking specifically about that. Last year I tried to get a committee to actually visit one of our field offices, talking with the committee staffer. I'm talking Allison, myself, Daphne, I believe, and I think somebody from the governor's office are pulling together a quick meeting. That's something that we can talk about, because Senator Cutter is going to be the chair this year, and she wants to pull us together to kind of like talk about the space and see what's going on. And that's definitely something I can at least mention.
Thank you.
That'd be great. And just individually, as a loan commissioner, Senator Cutter's reached out to what we call ourselves the fire commissioners across the state, and we're having some conversations with her as well. She's going out and talking with folks and getting a lot of feedback from folks across the state. So just that's separate from this. And we actually had a county commissioner conference up in Eagle County this week, and we all that group of commissioners from around the state, we all kind of, as commissioners, not as Forest Health Council, had conversations about us talking and collaborating and making sure we all are sharing those things. And I saw Commissioner Medina there, and that meeting, that last one got canceled. Otherwise, I would have said, hey, follow me over across the other side of the courtyard, but that one got canceled last minute. But anyway, so we're out of time. Anyone, any other burning desires, questions, or concerns? Did you feel today's meeting was productive and some good information for you all? Great.
Thank
I'm
you.
excited. I think we have some great stuff to talk about. And I think as we go along and learn, we're able to get really focused and targeted. And I think this is good. So I appreciate you all. Happy Friday. Thank you all for your work, and we'll see you on the 14th. Look for some information, and have a wonderful weekend, everyone. Take care. I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second? All those in favor?
Bye.
Anybody opposed? All right. Have a great day, everyone. Take care. Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.
So Courtney, I know that's a pretty detailed thing, and I don't know how that works, but